Great. Welcome, everyone. My name is Priya. We're going to go ahead and get this session started. So today I'll be talking to you about connecting and sharing using near-field communication. We have a couple other people from our feature crew here with us today. This is Max Morris, another program manager working on the feature as well. And we have Travis Martin sitting up here in the front row, one of our developers, who's also been working on this feature. So let's get started. Looks like this isn't working. Great. Already into our demo snafus. So I'm going to break the agenda down for you. It's pretty simple what we have for you today. The first thing is I'm going to go through a series of really exciting and cool demos that showcase what the flavor of proximity is with Windows 8. And then we're actually going to break those demos down for you and show you how to build what we've shown to you today with the demos. And really, by the end of today, you're going to learn how to build apps that connect people together. And oh, great. Is that working again?
Yeah, just this right-hand button. They got it sorted.
Perfect. So that's really what the proximity is all about. It's about connecting people together through their devices. And without any further ado, I'm going to go straight into the demos, because to be quite honest with you, this is something that's much easier shown to you than described to you. So I'm sure a lot of you watched the keynote yesterday, and Mike Angiulo was on stage, and he demoed this sharing or tapping a tag against your Windows 8 PC, and you can open the URL with it. So these tags are floating around the conference. They say tap this against your build PC. We have a bunch of them up here as well, so you're welcome to grab a couple for yourselves. They're read and writable for all the app developers in the room. So when I tap this against the back of my PC, you can see I receive a notification that's inviting me to receive some content. When I accept the notification, the Windows Build site launches. That's really cool for a couple reasons. A, just being a user, I get instantly gratified because the second I tap this against my PC, Windows is smart enough to know what to do with this tag. And from a tag perspective, this tag actually contains the windowsbuild.com URL on it. Now let's say I want to share this site with Max over here, and I'm sure all of you have been in the situation where if you want to share a website with someone that's right next to you, you have to email the link to them, wait for 5 minutes, and then finally they can open it up. I mean, to me that seems kind of archaic, right? Because Max is right next to me. Well, with the proximity experiences that we've built for you in Box, you don't have to do that anymore. So let me show you how to do this. I'm going to go ahead and swipe in, choose the devices charm, and you'll see that there's an option here that says someone nearby. When I accept this, there's going to be a prompt that comes up inviting me to tap the two devices together. So from my perspective, I'm all set up, ready to go tap with Max. So what's going to be interesting is when we look at the receiver side. So now we've switched displays to what's being shown on Max's screen. Bring the two PCs together, and he's received the exact same notification that I received when I tapped the toast against, or the tag against my Windows 8 PC. Pretty cool stuff. So, great. That was really cool for a couple reasons. A, because not only was it me interacting with my environment, it was also me interacting with someone else with just the ease of a tap. And the other cool thing I mentioned to you earlier was that these tags held the information for the Windows Build, or for the Windows Build site. What's interesting for you as app developers is that these tags can also launch applications. So what that means is you can program the tags so that they can contain the URI for your app specifically, and you can actually set some context in there as well, so you can launch it to a specific page within your site. Great, so let me show you that demo. This is a different tag, and for those of you who don't know me very well, when I first started at Microsoft, I actually started on the Windows audio team, just because I'm really, really passionate about sound. I walk around the office with my DJ headphones all the time, get made fun of a lot. But we had some interns working on proximity apps, and one of the apps that they built was this app called Bitbox. And so when I tapped this tag against the Windows 8 PC, I received this invitation that's inviting me to launch this app, Bitbox. So I'm going to go ahead and start the app. And this app is all about music. It's about making your own beats. It's about just being able to have fun. So I'm going to go ahead and add a sequencer in here. And let's choose something fun, like the piano. And I'm going to do some cool stuff. I never claimed to be a very good DJ, FYI. And I can hear Max over there is making his own beats with the same app. So it sounds like he wants to go head-to-head or collaborate with me, but we can find out in just a second. So I'm going to pull up the app bar. There's an option here that says Host Session, and it's telling me to tap to invite a friend. So we're going to go ahead and tap together. Looks like the demo gremlins have gotten us.
Let's try one time.
Sure. No, I didn't.
Well, let's come back.
Sure, we'll have to come back to that. But let me tell you about what should happen, is that we would actually be able to collaborate into a type of DJ duo session where I would be able to play his sound from my PC, and then we'd be able to collaborate and make some beats together. So that's one of the apps that our interns have built, and it was really, really exciting for us to watch them use our APIs and really learn about proximity experiences and build something that had a personal connection not only with me, but to them, because those interns were actually really passionate about music as well. And as a result, this really leads into the main point that I talked about 10 or 15 minutes ago, which is proximity and its applications. They're about connecting people together. It's about bringing two people and allowing them to share an experience with a very human gesture. And so this new gesture is something that we wanted to get some feedback on. So we took this new model of interacting with your devices to the labs, and I wanted to show you a video of what some of our users thought about this new way of interacting with devices.
It's you're transferring data. That's like, it's amazing. Because it used to be you used to have to connect all kinds of wires and everything.
That's great. It's actually making devices human again. You know, it's like where you can actually interact with people with your device. I think that's great because devices have become so, we're all on the network and we all must, conform. Where now I can have my own device and I can share with you what I want by tapping or bumping or whatever you want to call it. And now it makes it more of a human approach.
I thought it was pretty neat. I mean, just to tap it. I mean, I've never heard of that before, so I thought that was pretty neat.
But it'd be kind of cool if we're like in the same proximity, and I could just tap, boom, and it's like, hey, do you want to share, photos? And then we could actually share, and I'll say, hey, yeah, I want to share these, boom, and we can tap. So I think there's all kinds of different. The more content that people acquire, the more they'll want to share it.
Very, very cool stuff. I always get super, super excited when I watch those videos because to me, since I've been working on this feature since it pretty much began, I think I'm just become so familiar with it. And to hear that outside perspective on it all over again, it's just refreshing because you realize how innovative and fun these experiences that we're building are. And I think one of the participants really hit the nail on the head when he described these experiences as bringing the human element back to devices, which is why we really compare tapping devices together to a handshake. And it's pretty much like a digital handshake. Because when you think about a handshake, you get into someone's personal space and you're making physical contact with them for just a few seconds. But it's really the start of something bigger. It's the start of a discussion. And that's kind of the same way that we've modeled our experiences. It's, you tap and go. You want it to be quick. You want it to be instantaneous. And then a set of experiences happen afterwards. And what's kind of cool about that interaction is that it's very, very human. And there's been a lot of reactions towards it. So I want to show you another video from our labs that kind of plays and pokes a little bit of fun at this interaction, but it also shows you what users think about it.
Tap and send. To begin, tap devices near the sensor. Okay. That's hilarious. It's like they're kissing. That is cool.
No, it's really cool in between things, home networks and stuff.
Yeah.
It's easier than it replaces Dropbox. Alright. Tap me.
Oh.
Tap that.
Devices near the NFC sensor, so.
Let's see how close.
Yeah, it's not seeing it yet.
One tap.
Is it just a quick tap and then we can put it back down, or do we need to hold it up? Okay.
That's like maintaining the personal contact in electronic communication. It's the high five of.
What do you think of that?
I think it's weird.
Okay.
We haven't fully explored its capabilities yet. So far, I think it's weird.
Let's get married.
I can't wait to see what that is.
That was awkward.
So
Okay.
I would find it amusing to do that, especially like I could see being at my house with my wife and have pictures on my computer that I want to show her or something, or on my, like you say, your phone. Like, hey, babe, check this picture that I got today. Just tap her computer and they go on there.
Those are definitely a riot, to say the least, those videos. But the one key here is that you saw what an emotional reaction we got out of the participants. Like, no other interaction with your devices do you see people get so nervous or excited, or it really resonates with them. Because at some level, these devices that we carry around in our pockets or our tablets, they're an extension of ourselves, right? They hold all our media, they hold our pictures, they hold our resumes. Like, they're very personal to us. And so at the end of the day, when we kind of look at all the different pivots around proximity, there's a few things there. There's, it's a natural interaction. It's very human to tap your devices together. It's something that's done with other people and your environment. And it's really about being next to someone, being close to things, as well as you want it to be a very natural, quick, and lightweight interaction, which is why we've kind of been talking about it as a tap and go type of gesture, where you tap and then something else happens. So we're using it somewhat as a trigger. And now we're going to start getting into our programming model, which I'm sure all of you are very excited to hear about, since we have a lot of application developers in the room today. After we did a lot of the usability studies and we looked at this ourselves, there are a couple common tasks that have been coming up over and over again that people want to do with proximity. The first is being able to send and receive messages and files, and then there's this notion of connecting the two instances of your app across different devices, what we were showing with you with Bitbox. Then there's this notion of actually being able to set up a device with the ease of a tap. So taking your mouse, tapping against your tablet, and then having those devices paired together. And going back to the share example I was just talking to you about with files, we are doing that in the same way that the share charm is getting used with app developers. So you can just leverage the share contract in order to get the NFC sharing feature. But when we look at all these different tasks, whether it be connecting an application together or sharing files together or setting up a device, there's a specific pattern that we found around all these experiences. And the one thing that you guys totally just you can go away with today is that this pattern, while it is somewhat complex, Windows provides a really simple programming construct so that we can worry about all the networking, all the radios, all the stack underneath. So all you have to worry about is getting your application into a state that's ready for a tap. So we don't want you to have to worry about, is there a connection that's available? We'll take care of all of that for you. We have a really, really simple set of APIs for you to use. And when we actually map this model of being able to tap and going in and out of range into a programming construct, there are two main key points here. And there's this idea of user intent. What does the user want to do when the tap occurs? And what should happen next? So I was talking to you earlier about this pattern that gets set up regardless of what the experience that's going to happen is, whether it's sharing files or connecting applications. There's kind of three steps here. The user's going to set context. They're going to get ready to share whatever it is that they're sharing, or they're going to launch the app that they want to have a multi-user game with. Then they're going to actually tap against another device. And the last thing is they want what they expect to happen. And once again, I know I made this point earlier, but I want to stress it definitely that this is about connecting people together. It's not about radios. It's not about networking. It's about your application talking to the same instance of itself, but with different people. So let's get down to the nitty-gritty, which is how to use our proximity APIs. And I'm going to deconstruct some of the demos that we showed for you earlier today, and we're going to give the Bitbox demo another whirl. We'll do that in just a second. But the first thing I want to show to you is how to share file or share contents. So a couple minutes ago, I talked to you about sharing a website and showed you how to do that by invoking the device's charm and then choosing someone nearby. There are a couple different things to note about that. The first is you can share content across different devices without even using our proximity APIs. There's this notion of a share contract that's getting used with the share charm. If you go ahead and leverage that contract, you'll get the NFC sharing functionality for free. And your app can register to receive files with just an autoplay handler, like say that you want to receive VCFs or you want to receive photo images. You can just register to receive those file types, and we'll take care of the rest for you. And that experience that you saw with swiping in, choosing the charm, that's consistent across all apps. So you don't have to worry about the UI with setting everything up. We'll take care of all that for you. All you really need to do is tell us what you want to share at the time of a tap. So when we break this down into code, some of you might remember this from yesterday, Steven Sinofsky's talk. The first thing that we're going to do is set up a data transfer manager object. And this object is going to get us ready to share when the tap occurs. The next thing we're going to do is go ahead and write out a function that's going to allow you to tell us what you want to share when the tap occurs. So when you read through all this code, there's a couple mandatory things you have to do, like set the title, set the description. But the key here is telling us what we want to share, which is in that green box right there. And it's saying when the tap occurs, share out this URI, which is www.oddfellows.com. And that's what's going to get sent out. And it's as easy as that. It's about 10 lines of code maybe. And that'll give you the NFC sharing functionality built in. No UI work, just tell us what you want to share. DJ with a friend. Should we try this again?
Let's do it.
All right, I want you guys to see this. I want you guys to share my passion for music.
Knock on wood.
Exactly. So I'm going to go ahead and launch Bitbox again. Let's add a sequencer. Perfect. Ready? Perfect.
Okay, let's make this happen. Come on. That's a bummer.
Fortunately, it looks like it's not working with us right now. Sorry about that, guys.
All right. Second time might have been a charm.
Yeah. But I will go into the details of how you can do that with your app, seeing as we have demo gremlins up in this app, apparently. Do you mind switching me back to? Yeah. Great. So DJ with a friend, kind of what we wanted to show you right there. What would actually happen, once again, I just want to run you through that flow so it's fresh in your minds, is that our applications would get connected together. I would be the host, and I'd be able to control whatever Max is playing, so I could turn his sounds on or off. And we could just go into a collaborative DJ session, pretty much. And there are really a couple keys here for when you're connecting your app. It's that you can connect to an instance of your app on a different PC. That's kind of the key here. And really cool things to give you as app developers a well-rounded story. What we've done for you is, if that app if Max has that app installed in his machine, but he hasn't launched it, we'll invite him to launch that app. And then when he accepts, it's going to go into a mode that's ready to be connected with a peer. And let's say your app, Max doesn't even have the app installed in his machine. We'll launch a notification inviting him to go to the app store, or excuse me, the store, where he'll be redirected to the Bitbox page and invited to install that application. So we've taken care of, getting your other user ready in this state to be able to use that app. So let's get into the code for how you can actually connect these applications together. We call this class the PeerFinder class. And the first thing you're going to want to do is get the default proximity device. And what this does is ensures that your PC has proximity enabled on the device. From there are a couple different bool values that you can set, and those relate to the out-of-band transport that we're using. So a couple minutes ago, I talked to you about this gesture of tap and go. The way we've enabled that is when you tap devices together and you pull away, what we do on that initial tap is we exchange some Bluetooth MAC addresses, IP addresses, so that we can facilitate that discussion over a different transport. And those 3 transports are Wi-Fi, Bluetooth, or Wi-Fi Direct. So we don't want you to worry about any of that. So all of these bool values for the out-of-band transports, they're set to true by default. But for whatever reason, if you want to use one specifically, we give you that capability. So next thing you're going to want to do is actually start looking for peers. So you can see there's a really, really simple call here, which is windows.networking.proximity.peerfinder.start. And that'll just get you in a state that's ready to look for peers. And from a UI perspective, that kind of means that you need to tell the user, I'm ready for a tap. Whenever you're ready to tap against someone else, I'm looking for someone else to tap with. And so what happens under the covers is that Windows is going to tell you when another peer has been found. So you in your application, you're going to have to register a callback. So let me show you how to do that with just a really simple function right here. And this callback is to handle the event for when another peer is found. So there are a couple different states that you can be in. There's the state where you're connecting to a device. So that would mean that your device is the client, or is the host, excuse me. And then the other state is that you are listening for a connect. And in that case, you're going to be connecting as a client. That might be interesting to you for a couple reasons from your application's perspective. You might want to know when someone's the host, if they're going to be the moderator of a game, or it could just be as simple as a teacher in a class for a lecture session when they tap devices together. Some other states that are interesting as well, clearly, is a connection complete. And you can see what we do from an API standpoint is we just hand a socket back to you so you can party on with that socket and do whatever you need to do. And then, of course, there's the connection failed state, and that's going to be interesting for you when you tell the user that, hey, you'll probably need to tap again. And that's pretty much it in terms of all of our, let me go back to that slide real quickly. That's pretty much it in terms of all the API calls that are there for you in order to get connected to another peer. So you can see that we've really abstracted away from this networking layer. We've still kept it in the networking class because this is about getting 2 devices connected together, but we don't want you to worry about that. We just want you to be able to, we want to enable you to build whatever application you want to build that allows for 2 people. So I want to do one last demo for you guys, and this is going to relate to the proximity sample that's in the SDK. And this will show our third model for what you can do with applications. And this really gets down to being able to send and receive messages. Just kind of if you want to publish out a message and if you want to subscribe to a same message, to a same namespace, and you want to have the control over your message management, that's the last layer of our API. We all set to go? Perfect. So this is the SDK sample, and pretty bare, but gets the job done, definitely. I'm going to send a message over to Max that is very familiar to you guys, I'm sure. Oh. Looks like there is a problem with getting the proximity device. That could be the reason why the Bitbox wasn't working earlier. So, sure.
Let's talk to the code.
Yeah, definitely. So Max is going to work on getting that all set up, and in the meantime, I'll be talking to the code. And you might be asking yourselves, why do we give you this other way of connecting and talking to devices? And there's a couple reasons. There's clearly the interop point so that you can write to NFC tags or other NFC devices. So you can publish to a specific namespace, and you can subscribe to messages from a specific namespace as well. And that really follows the pub-sub model that we've defined. And the PeerFinder class that you saw a couple minutes ago, it's really built on top of this layer as well, this pub-sub layer. And the way we've built it is that you can publish out a message, and whoever is subscribed to that same message type, that's the only set of subscribers that's going to get this message. And one really cool thing is we provide some default formatting for you, so you don't have to worry about that. If you do want to get your own NDEF parser, you're welcome to, though. So let's take a look at the code. The first step, same as what we showed you before, which is getting the default device. But in this case, it's a little bit different because you're going to actually be publishing a message and subscribing to a message with that device. So in order to publish a message, really simple API call, we're just going to go ahead and say default proximity device.publish message. That first parameter that you see there, windows.sample message type, that's just our namespace right there. And the last thing to do is tell the user that you're ready to send a message. Tap and go. So if we look at the receiving side, that's really all there is to publishing a message to let you guys know. So it's pretty simple. When you're receiving, we'll have the same first step right there, which is getting the default device. And then when you subscribe, you'll notice that that second parameter right there, or that first parameter, excuse me, is the exact same namespace, which is windows.sample message type. And that's really the key here, is that your application should use the same namespace, whether it's publishing or whether it's subscribing. And that message call is the exact same, except this time it says subscribe for message. And of course, the last point is tell the user, I'm ready to receive messages, tap and go. So you can see with really 5 simple steps, you can get access to the default device and be able to do your own message management yourself, which is kind of cool because we don't want you to have to burden yourselves with any other types of API calls. Let's take a look real quick. Are we ready to go? Awesome. Max is very cool. Great. Let's take a look at this demo again. I'm up? Great. So I'm going to publish that same message that we just saw a second ago. Enter proximity to transmit. Perfect. Are you all subscribed to messages, Max?
Yep.
Great. So now the receiver side is definitely going to be more interesting. So
there on my side, you can see output, subscribe to proximity message. We just swap the screens. It looks very similar. Go ahead and tap.
there you go.
Oh, yay, it worked. You can see
Message
there at the
received.
bottom.
Hello world. We're making it.
Message received, hello world. And I'm gonna just, I think, we're gonna give Bitbox the third college try here. 'Cause
Yes, we are.
frankly, talk about the equipment here in just a minute. But there's Bitbox. Let me get it up and running. Priya, why don't you get going?
Sure.
Just go ahead and launch it up. We don't need to use the tag this time.
Yep.
promise this will be the last time you feature our poor musical talent.
Ready?
I'm ready.
Let's kick it.
All right, let's go. Yay!
Did it work?
I don't know, it didn't work. Come on. Apparently, all right, well, we gave it a try.
We appreciate the applause.
Yeah.
Great.
go
Max,
ahead.
did you want to talk about the equipment real quickly?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, might as well do that at the moment. What you folks have is something that we've worked with our partner Samsung and NXP to put together. Samsung did a great job of working on putting an NFC, what we call basically a peer device in the system with an antenna that's just right underneath. It's very hard to find, unfortunately, and it's basically right here. Part of what we're working on with our partner, let me see if I can show you. It's basically right here and sort of on the right-hand side in the middle. Our guidelines really are to put this in the upper right-hand quadrant. We're working on that with our OEM partners and with IHVs to sort of figure out what it would work, how it will work and what it would look like. We've got some touch mark guidelines. We've got some sound schemes that are coming. That's not there right now. But in this developer preview, the radio's there, it works pretty well. Our partners at NXP did a great job putting a driver together that really meets many of our spec guidelines and actually performs very well. Some of the challenges that you've seen here are just there's a lot of things moving on in our radio environment, and I suspect it may actually be partly related to our interns and partly related just the way that our whole stack is working, because guess what, it's a developer preview. But actually, I'll say today, earlier, we were having it work with a lot of success.
It's true.
And so the demo gremlins have really kind of come out in force. People want to come up later afterwards. We might actually see if we try it, and without all the pressure, maybe it'll work because they'll go away. So, but a couple things to think about with this device. It's kind of hard to do proximity on your own because you kind of need two, and many of you just got one device. So we recognize that. One of the things that's interesting and valuable about the cards, and we have about 1,000 of them here, and so that's more than the folks required here, is that you can actually play with these tags as a way to kind of trigger actions, begin to get familiar with the API to start some things up. We've also got with Samsung a microsite put together that's got a bunch of information about where, and you'll get instructions on that, it'll be available, but this microsite tells you how to use the developer machine, how to find the driver, how to play with the driver, how to kickstart it sometimes if it needs to get kickstarted, where placement is. And also, as Stephen mentioned yesterday, we're servicing these machines, and with NXP, we're going to be rolling out some additional changes that will improve some of the things that are going on, maybe some of the gremlins under the covers, and our interaction with those gremlins also in Windows, as well as further support towards standards. And so one of the things that folks might want to know about is how does this interoperate with other systems. One thing to know is that Microsoft's pretty dedicated to having standards interoperability. The version of the driver that you have right here doesn't meet all of the standards, but one standard that we're excited about just got certified just in the last month or so, which is called SNEP, which is a simple exchange protocol for these messages, and we're going to see a rollout of that in the driver coming soon. So you'll be able to interoperate with other NFC devices in a very standard way. So that's what you should expect when we talk about NFC. We're talking about compatibility, interoperability, third-party support. Maybe not for all of the scenarios that are in Windows, but we're open to that in the long term. So, Priya, back to you.
Great. Thank you so much for that. So before we part, and I want to talk to you a little bit about our user experience considerations that we'd like for you to keep in mind when building your applications. So they're really simple. We're not going to burden you guys, don't worry. Number one is keep the user informed. That's kind of like, hey, I'm ready to tap devices together, or the connection failed, or I'm connecting to you as a client. Whatever you think is important for the user, there is this magical moment when you tap devices together and you're waiting for something to happen, right? Like you're kind of expecting something to change on your screen. So that's what we mean by keep the user informed. Just let them know what's going on. And it's just a very powerful thing with making your app very user-friendly. The second is user consent lets the user be in control. Really, really simple idea, but what we're trying to push home here is that when a user chooses to be in a multiplayer mode, that's when you know that you're ready for a tap. So just let the user be able to be in control of their application, whatever that means for your application specifically. When it's a game, maybe you're in the lobby of the game and then you choose going into a multiplayer mode. And that's what we would mean by user consent right there. And the last is capture the personal aspect of proximity in your app design. So taking us back to the start of this whole session when we looked at the emotional reaction that people had when tapping their devices together, it's kind of cool and it's very, very powerful. And you as application developers, you guys can really tap into that and make your application hit home with the users that are out there right now. So you'll be able to, if you can really like tap into that emotional capacity that's there with this experience and with the gesture and what's been built for you, that would be great. And I think you guys can really leverage that with whatever application you decide to build. And those are all our user considerations, and it's pretty much that's all I really want to talk to you in terms of what our guidelines are for you. I don't want to burden you guys with do this, this, and this. Just have fun with your app, and I'm sure you guys know that, and you will do that as well. So let's go through a really short recap. Once again, we talked about this point at the beginning of the discussion, but proximity is totally about connecting people together through their devices. You know, it's not about the radio layers, it's not about networking. It's about allowing people to have a shared experience together. And to break down our APIs into 3 really concise components, you can share content across PCs, you can connect apps together across different PCs, and you can communicate with NFC forum compliant tags and devices. That's really the crux of what our API can do. And if you guys want to know more about some of the what else is going on within the stack, whether it be specific to what Max is talking about with OEMs, he's going to be leading a talk tomorrow. It's talk 269. And then there's a couple other talks about the out-of-band transport, such as Wi-Fi Direct and Bluetooth that are going on as well. But here's just a list of other talks that you might be interested in, given that this talk has touched on quite a few different layers. So I want to thank you guys so much again for your time. Really appreciate you coming out here and coming to this talk. I know you had a choice in terms of what you get to come and listen to. Max and I will be sticking around for next couple minutes, as well as we'll be downstairs in the expo here to answer questions with you guys one-on-one. So, oh yeah, and we also have we have an Ask the Expert session, where we'll be more than happy to answer any of your questions there as well. Thanks again, guys.